Shalom, and welcome to a message for the Parsha for Parshat Va'era. In this week's Parsha is when all the fun, all the excitement of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of the Exodus of Egypt, begins. As in this week's Parsha is when Moses, and his brother Aaron come to Pharaoh, and perform all the miracles, and especially we read about the 10 plagues. Not all of the 10 in this week's Parsha, but the overwhelming majority of the plagues are in this week's Parsha. Now it's interesting, we all know the plagues. Blood, and then went the frogs, and then the lice. And of course the question is, why? What is the purpose? What was this all about? Was it God trying to flex his muscles and show Pharaoh who's boss? Was it about getting the Jews out of Egypt? Well, it can't be that, because if it was just merely about getting the Jews out of Egypt, why go through this whole process? Why, hit him almost like playing cat and mouse, and Tom and Jerry, you know what I'm saying? I do this, and then you do that, and then that happens, and it doesn't happen, and then you promise, and it doesn't happen, and I hit you again, and I do this stunt. Obviously, it's not that. Obviously, there was a purpose in all of this. In fact, there's something that we need to take out of this. And when I say something, it's really not only something, but it's everything. And I'll explain. Each and every single day of our lives is connected to the Exodus of Egypt. In fact, every major ritual, every major observance in Judaism is connected to the Exodus of Egypt. Take, for example, Friday night. We make the Kiddush. Why do we celebrate Shabbat? What is Shabbat? To remember the creation of the world. This is the seventh day creation. But at the same time, what do we say in the Kiddush? Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim. This is a commemoration. This is a memory of the Exodus of Egypt. When we say the Shema every day, we mention the Exodus of Egypt. And so on and so forth. We put on a tefillin. That's connected to the Exodus of Egypt. Why? Why remember Egypt all the time? In fact, it's one of the principles of our faith to remember that God took us out of Egypt. Nothing else happened in our history? Why every single day? And the answer is because leaving Egypt, it wasn't just a one-time occurrence. Egypt is not just a geographical location. Rather, it is a concept in our lives. And it exists in each and every aspects of our lives. And it becomes bigger and stronger so long that we don't work on pushing it away. Let me explain. The Hebrew name of Egypt, the Hebrew word for it is Mitzrayim. Now Mitzrayim comes from the root word Metzarim, Metzar, which means a boundary, an obstacle, something holding you back, a restraint. Thus, leaving Egypt is an each and everyday endeavor. Leaving Egypt is actually something that has to take place every moment in our lives. And not just in our spiritual lives, in our emotional lives, psychological lives, professional lives. Because we as human beings tend to slip into complacency. We tend to slip into even what I would call laziness. We become very comfortable with our situation, and we sometimes fail to take the necessary steps to make the actual effort to grow. And so long that you don't grow and you stay stagnant and stuck in one place, you are now back in Egypt in a certain sense. Thus, what the Torah wants us to constantly remember is we became a people, and we continue to become a people only by leaving Egypt. This is why the Torah finds it necessary to share with us all the details of the plagues and why they in fact happened in the first place. You see, this wasn't just about getting the Jews out of Egypt. This wasn't just about getting Pharaoh to release them or to expel them. No, this was to subdue the evil of Egypt, to subdue their godliness, to subdue their evil idol worship, and to prove to them that God's in charge. To inject some godliness, some true godliness into them. That's what it's all about. And you actually see it consistently when Hashem says to Moshe, tell Pharaoh there'll be such and such a plague, and they will know that I am God. So it's not just about getting the Jews out of Egypt. It's a process of how to go and transform yourself from being closed, from being stuck, from being trapped in Egypt, in Mitzrayim, and getting out of those restraints, of those bonds. Let's take the first two of the plagues as an example. The first one is blood. The second one is frogs. What is blood? Blood is warm. It is hot. If blood's alive, if it becomes cold, it congeals. In order for blood to flow, it's warm. There's life, there's energy in it. Frogs, on the other hand, are a cold-blooded creature. Frogs hang out in the water mostly. This is what the message Hashem was sending. In order to start to break Egypt, to start to undo those trappings, those constraints, you need to first break the apathy towards godliness, the apathy towards good, the apathy to what's right. You need to inject some blood into it, some warmth, some life, some excitement. Once you've done that, what is the next step? Now you do need some coldness. But which coldness do you need? You need some apathy towards some coldness, some frogs, towards your own self-love, towards one's selfishness, towards one's own indulgences. Lower the temperature a little bit. Be mindful of something greater than yourself. And this is a very important recipe for breaking out of our traps, breaking out of our own Egypt. I'll make it a disclaimer. I'm no big cook. I'm, in fact, no cook at all. I know how to make it a cup of coffee, hard-boiled eggs, and you fry some eggs and so on, but nothing more than that. But a couple weeks ago, I actually endeavored to help out a little bit, and I took out some quinoa, some raw quinoa, and I looked at the package, and I followed the instructions. And something struck me. In the instructions, it tells you to cook it for 15 minutes, and after you finish cooking it, you have to let it sit for 5 minutes off the fire, cool down, and then you fluff it, and then you stir it. I was thinking, why, if I stirred it earlier, why wouldn't it have the same effect? It won't. Don't ask me why. I don't know the science of cooking. And that's the same here. Blood, then the frogs. First inject some warmth, some excitement, but then you have to go take a step back and now inject some coldness, but not towards the same direction that you injected the warmth before, towards the other direction. So this gives us a little idea, a little glimpse as to how to experience the exodus from Egypt each and every day of our lives. Shabbat Shalom.